down to pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. The board moves to enter into executive session pursuant to 1 MRS 405-6E for consultations between the Select Board and its attorney concerning the legal rights and duties of the Select Board in relation to the board's consideration of a consent agreement to resolve violations of the Bridgton Land Use Code at property identified by the town as Lot 86 and Lot 70 on Town Map 22, as well as Lot 24 on Tax Map 23. Dan seconds. All in favor? 5-0. Enter executive session.
They're really proud of the work that they do here in the community to bring jobs, economic development, and invest in the tax base here. They're really thoughtful on how they handle their projects, including Hotel Bridgton. The incident that gave rise to this issue that we're here to discuss today, and it's mentioned in the consent agreement, was caused by Maine Eco Homes' third-party contractor, an arborist, by not following the landscaping plan that the town approved. No one at Maine Eco Homes, at least to my knowledge, gave permission for this work to be done. However, it should be noted that the 8 trees that were removed were dead and diseased and would have needed to be taken down eventually anyway. My understanding is, I don't want to speak for Brenda, but my understanding was that the arborist did not ask the upfront permission to take down the trees, but that permission would have been granted. And again, I don't want to speak for her, but that was my understanding. This miscommunication falls squarely on Maine Eco Homes' third-party arborist. So Maine Eco Homes takes pride in the fact that since its inception, it hasn't had any land use violations levied against them, to my knowledge. And so this particular issue was very concerning and surprising to the company, quite frankly. The company recognizes that this is their property, and they want to put this behind them and continue to work collaboratively with the town on resolving the issue. So Justin, as he usually does, is acting in good faith and in grace and willing to move forward on this agreement to resolve this violation. Recognizing that he himself, Justin McGuire, nor Maine Eco Homes was out there themselves cutting down any trees. And so I'll leave it at that. I'm happy to answer any questions or anything, but your counsel's here. I'm sure he's briefed you quite a bit on it.
Thank you. Anyone else would care to speak?
Catherine DePietro, South High Street. A couple of questions for the board to consider. First,
That's the mic there. It's a little flat thing.
Oh, it's a little flat. Okay. I see no fines for the removal of the existing vegetation less than 3 feet at all in your proposal. And that's critical because the lower vegetation is important for stormwater buffering. And because that has been neglected here, there will be, and probably have been through the summer, stormwater problems. So that's something to consider before you approve what you've got here. And also, why is the revegetation plan not coming to the planning board? The planning board was the one entity that approved the original landscaping plan, and all revisions according to the June 9th, is it June 9th? Look. The June 10th, 2019 plan were supposed to come back to the planning board. So if you could consider both of those.
Thank you. Alan?
Good evening. My name is Colin Holm, and I'm the Director of Lakes Environmental Association at 230 Main Street, right next door. But I sleep in Waterford, which is also a nice town. This is a complicated site with multiple regulatory authorities, including site plan review, shoreline zoning, and Natural Resource Protection Act. As you all know, the site was previously developed, and it also had numerous invasive species on it, which makes vegetation removal and permitting very nuanced. I bring this up because the complexity is what I'm going to tie back to, and it's part of the heart of my point today. The Lakes Environmental Association is most interested in restoring and building back the integrity of the shoreline zone along the Stevens Brook in that area. And that's really why I'm here tonight. When Jeff Kalinich, who is the Assistant Shoreline Zoning Coordinator for the Maine DEP, looked at the site last summer, he found more trees and vegetation were cut than were allowed to be removed through the permit that was granted. He also found the revegetation plan that was originally done by Terryadine Engineering was not adequate for the amount of trees and vegetation that was originally planned to be legally removed. He also planned the plan also included non-native species and plants that were clumped together as opposed to being distributed widely throughout the area that was proposed for cutting. Lastly, the plan was inconsistent with the original site assessment done by Q-Team. The problems with the revegetation plan were not caught by the board or other reviewers, including LEA. This was a big packet with lots of information, very complex, and as you all remember, slightly contentious. I think we can agree that too much vegetation was taken out at this point, and what the town needs to make sure is that adequate revegetation plan is developed and implemented to properly restore the site. After Jeff Kalinich looked at the site, he recommended a totally new revegetation plan be submitted for review and approval. And I agree that should also go through the planning board. And I think that's what we need at this point. I don't think it's fair to put the review of a complex revegetation plan on the plate of the code enforcement officer. And I also think it shouldn't be just on the planning board alone. Nor do I think the CEO should have to go out every year or multiple times a year for 5 years to document how the plants are doing, to make sure everything is up to snuff, to make sure they're complying with the revegetation plan. For this reason, I suggest the board require a third party, a qualified third party, like an engineering firm or a landscape architect firm or a legal firm that reports to the town to review the plan and check on the vegetation as required and report back to the town to make sure they stay in compliance. This can be paid for through a separate review escrow that is funded by Maine Eco Homes and included in the consent agreement with the town, and that's what I'm suggesting. Planning boards use review escrow accounts like this frequently to help review complex projects, and they're paid for by the developer. Funds used for review have to be documented at the end of the period, and in this case, I would suggest a 5-year period, and any money left in escrow is returned to the applicant. So to summarize my 3 points is the board should really require a new revegetation plan that addresses not only the violation at hand, but the overall removal of vegetation within that area. The plan should be reviewed by a third party, a qualified third party, and compliance needs to be reviewed by a qualified third party. Those are my points. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, I'm happy to stay up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Brian Murphy. I'm a resident of Bridgton at 372 High Ridge Road. I had a conversation with Colin recently. I also had reached out to Jeff Kalinich. I'm sorry?
Cohen.
Yes, okay, that gentleman. And he had replied to me yesterday, and he said that, and I'm going to quote from his email if that's okay. In the department's response to the complaint received regarding vegetation removal, it was determined not only had tree removal exceeded what was permitted by the town, but the revegetation plan approved by the town was inconsistent with shoreland zoning requirements. So, and I don't mean any disrespect to the planning board members that are here tonight, okay, or to the code enforcement officer, okay? I have come before the board to get a driveway removed in 2008. Georgianne might remember me from that day. And I know things go out to the town Public Works Department, to Chief Jones and to Chief Garland regarding the projects. But to reiterate what Collins has said, the code enforcement officer, I don't know what their knowledge base is of the shoreland zoning codes. I tried to look at it today, and I tell you, I got lost in about 30 minutes. But this gentleman who came, Jeff, is an expert. He knows what he's doing. That's why you brought him up here, to take a look at that and help Brenda Day, is it Brenda Day?
Yeah, Brenda Day, yeah.
Come to a conclusion about the issue that the neighbors have brought up. My suggestion, I didn't know the budget was on your agenda tonight, but my suggestion is, this truly was my idea, Colin, but you've already gone there, is I would fund the planning board and the code enforcement office with some funds. And whether they come from the applicant, the developer, or the person who's trying to build the home, okay, find the money to bring in the experts that can come here and help her with the initial review of it, because he's saying it wasn't totally consistent with the regulations, okay? And, I would highly recommend that as you get into your budget discussions, think about ways to give that office help in making sure that, irregardless of this project, there's 3 big lakes in this town, or ponds, and there's a lot of small lakes. And the planning board gets hit probably, a lot of times about housing developments or homes or whatever, and they need shoreland review. So give them the tools to be able to do their job right. And as far as the comment by the attorney for Mr. McIver, the buck has to stop at his desk. You can't lay the blame on a third party. Third party had an issue. Third party should have called him. He should be responsive to anybody working on his job site, whether they're putting the roof on, they're cutting vegetation, or they're putting in the elevator. He's responsible. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Good evening, my name is Nancy Donovan, I live in Bridgton on Memory Lane. My concern came about after reading the report that has been cited by Jeffrey Kalinich, and then my own review of the town of Bridgton land use code, particularly that which can be found on page 73 of that code. In the letter from Mr. Kalinich, he noted that section 4-4R requires that native species be used for revegetation in a shoreland zone. So multiple trees have been removed. It appears more than was thought. Vegetation was removed. And so if you look, and I'm sure you do numerous times, look at the Town of Bridgton Land Use Code, several of the sentences say, all trees and tree saplings removed must be replaced with native Maine non-invasive species. All woody vegetation and vegetation under 3 feet in height must be replaced with native non-invasive species. Ground vegetation and ground cover must be replaced with native herbaceous vegetation. In the third paragraph down, Pteridine, I guess, the plan includes Jeff Kalinich reported that the plan includes the following species. 8 of them all 8 are that he lists are non-native species. So that's a clear violation. I don't know where else you can go other than this is a clear violation of what is in the code. So I don't think it can be approved when you have clear violations. Now, in case somebody says that, well, gee, what are the native trees and what are the native flora and fauna? Well, I wrote an article for the newspaper a couple weeks back. And I gave a website for the National Wildlife Federation that is titled Keystone Plants by Ecoregion. And that website allows you to enter the zip code, which I did for Bridgton, and a list of 195 flowers and grasses, and a list of 68 trees and shrubs were generated for this specific area. Native plants, native flora and fauna. So to me, there's absolutely no logical reason that non-native species are planned to be used. They can't be. It violates your land use code. And so that page 73 is pretty clear. It requires native species. Anything else, I believe, is a willful violation, and it just can't be allowed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Peter Lowell. I live in Bridgton, Maine, at the Muirfield Village. And I guess most of what I wanted to say has been covered, except one thing that occurred. I was code officer for Bridgton in Sweden for a number of years. And in the case of violations, I think you need to be really airtight with what happens. And so whoever gets to review this consent agreement, I think needs to look ahead and think about the oddball things that can happen. I'll give you one example. There's a property on Highland Lake where the person cut a whole bunch of pine trees in front of their camp. So I reached a consent agreement with them, and they planted 8 or 10 or 12 8-foot pine trees, and everything was hunky-dory. And then I went back a few years later, and they topped them. So they basically had bushes. I went by a couple of years ago, and they're gone, and there's now a patio where they were. So, when you require a revegetation, it's really important to make sure that there's ongoing monitoring. And I think the third-party approach is a really good way of conserving limited town resources and making sure that the job gets done and done professionally. And if that is not part of the consent agreement, then there's a big problem in the future. I can think of 3 or 4 properties right in Bridgton where consent agreement revegetations have fallen completely apart. So that long-term follow-up is really important. I urge you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. In the back.
Hello, good evening. My name's William Barnes. I live at 76 South Bridgeton Road here in Bridgeton. I followed this thing from the beginning, the whole project. Like everybody else, there's heated discussions about the whole thing. Nobody's happy with it. I get all that. What you're talking about is the vegetation, you're talking about trees. I ain't heard nobody say nothing about the wildlife that was affected. I didn't hear anybody talk about the creatures that live over there, the little specimens, bugs and whatever, and tadpoles or whatever, frogs. Nobody talks about any of that. We have that gray herring that hangs around over there. Probably won't be around that much longer with all the noise that's going to be coming, the lights and all of that. I don't hear no one say nothing. Woman mentioned the Federation, the Wildlife Federation, and from what they tell me in Wildlife Federation, it says this. It says, trees, dead or not, they create homes for beetles, bugs. They create places for rat snakes, right? They create things like a hiding place for a fox. All these other creatures that live there, there's 1,000 supposedly species that live within one dead tree. Now we think of it as it's a dead tree, it's no big deal, it's going to fall someday. What about the fish that live off of that? What about the birds that live off of those bugs? Now, I know it sounds kind of foolish, but it doesn't when you think of this. By taking away the vegetation and the trees and all of that, you affect the whole ecosystem. And then you have the fact that that parking lot that's going to be put in, you know and I know they're going to put salt in there one day because there's going to be ice. What about the runoff? Where's that end up? Does it end up out in the brook? Does it end up back out in the lake? We don't want salt water, right? We don't want salt in the lakes. So, I mean, some of this stuff needs to be taken into consideration. Now, this ain't personal against the lawyer or against Justin. It's about anybody. We should all be thinking about that. We always talk about the next generation, right? I got grandkids. Guess where I take them? Through that pathway. We've looked at tadpoles, frogs, birds, you name it, bugs. I've rolled over rocks with them. To me, you got an education system that's going to be thrown away to little kids. And then when it comes right down to it, like I said, the animals themselves, the wildlife, you're destroying them by allowing what happened. Now, I get it, the damage is done. I don't know how you fix the guys the bugs, we'll say, the species, the creatures that were living over there. How do you bring them back once you chased them off? I mean, there were deer living out there at one time. They're not there no more. They're going to be out getting hit by cars. You're going to have squirrels that used to live there running around. All the damages that's being done. It's a shame if you ask me. I mean, I'd go through the whole list if I had time, but I don't want to take a bunch of time. People have made a good point of what they got to say. And I honestly believe that. I think it's a sad and disgusting situation that we let happen. And even, like he said, it's not his fault, and I'm not blaming Justin. Business is business. But he's the guy that's in charge. If I hire you to put a deck on my house and the town comes and says you just made it too big, I'm the guy that gets in trouble. I mean, the fine, for me, as far as the fine, there's more than just a fine. It's not the monetary part. How do you fix the ecosystem? That's what bothers me. And the poor kids that would want to learn all that stuff science-wise. You could be bringing kids down, teaching them stuff through all that whole area. And now it's going to be lost forever, not just for a period. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan Hatch, Bridgton, Maine, forever. I must applaud the speakers so far. Brenda's job is huge. A couple months ago, we had a meeting and that was brought out. You can only handle so much. And her expertise is not in the garden world. So, wonderful ideas. This isn't the developer's first rodeo. We all know that. When you have projects, you have people overseeing them. And you have allowances if it is your first rodeo. But this isn't. And was not surprised at all that the results were what they were. Because the view is clear now. Second to this area, in Shorey's Park, there was some clearing. My alarm went up. What's going on? So I walked over and asked what it was all about and was told that it was free work doing for the town because of invasive species. But again, there was no one overseeing it. Now something's wrong with this repeated way things are done. And the fine that has been given or allotted that it's going to be is way, way low. Because we have to set a precedent, and people coming in, just even building residences, if they realize, oh, I can cut, say I'm sorry, get a little fine, it doesn't work because we care about our trees, we care about the lakes, we care about the man just speaking, everything, because it is all related. I have a maple that the tree people have been wanting to cut for over 10 years. But it provides me with a lot of shade, the animals that get the bugs out of it. But it's diseased, so I just urge you to get some help for Brenda with the third party, and think about, you need more of a slap of the hand for the fine, because other people do this, and they have for years. We all tell stories about on the lake and this and that, so please.
Thank you.
Marilyn Smith. I reside in Sweden, but I own probably the closest house to this project. It's 21 Highland Road. Everybody probably knows it as the Red House. I was there when those trees were being cut. I think maybe I was one of the people that called LEA. It was really upsetting because not only did they cut, but right away there was a person there or a company there that was grinding up all the roots, basically, probably, I figured, to hide everything. However, fortunately, we have someone who has a drone, and we have before and after pictures, which is great. I didn't see anything in the proposal about the size of the trees that have to be replaced. If they're little trees, I've been planting little trees on my lakeside house, not that house, but another one. They take a long time to grow, and I think there should be some kind of requirement for a certain size tree to be put in there. I don't care what it costs. And you're right about Susan mentioned the fine of $400 per tree, or was it $500? $500 per tree, whatever. I understand from the Land Resources Council that it is the town that sets this amount. So we can't ask DEP to do it or anybody else. You people are the ones to set that fine. And I hope it will go up. And then I hope he will be required also to put the money into making appropriate plantings of the appropriate size so that some of us might be able to enjoy them a little bit, and maybe our kids and grandkids will too. But this was really shameful. It was terrible when it was happening. And that's all I want to say. Not technical, but emotional. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Tom Smith. I'm at a butter on Kennard Street, and I live in Bridgton. Basically, I think everybody's pretty much hit the points as well too. So all I'm going to do is reiterate some of them. I think. I don't feel that the fine that you're imposing is proportionate to the cutting that was done. As Kathy pointed out, you've put a number on the trees. But the LEA has forever been saying how important that 3-foot buffer, that 50-foot buffer is. It's way reduced already in this particular circumstance because of the specific zoning, shoreline zoning, in it. But they're extremely protective of that, especially in the last 100 feet, the 3-foot growth and under. That hasn't been addressed at all in this, and that's probably one of the major parts of what the illegal cutting did. And I think that's one reason there alone, that you've got grounds to be raising the fine substantially. A $4,000 fine to this person isn't even a month's taxes on one little property. This isn't even the cost of doing business. This is a slap in the face of everybody who's ever been fined for anything and had to pay huge amounts, including people who have done huge amounts of cutting on the lakes and have had major fines. I think Colin and Peter could address that better than I did, the dollar amounts. But some of them have been in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm not saying this is equivalent to that, but it is to say that large fines are not out of order here. in doing this. I also totally endorse Colin's recommendation for the third-party monitoring and basically everything he said right there. One question I do have is, as usual, blame is pushed in somebody else's direction from this developer. And I'm curious why the arborist isn't a party to this agreement. The DEP goes after everybody involved and when there is these illegal stuff that happens like this in the shoreline zoning and the shoreline fine. I don't even see a mention of, I see a mention that the third party was done. I don't see any mention that party is being fined or in any way, notified even. There's no mention of that. So basically, I think I've covered it. I think that fine should be easily 10 times what it is. And even then, that's just basically a slap in the face of this, for this particular developer. Thank you.
Good evening, my name's Doug Oakley, live here in Bridgton on Highland Lake. My property's in the shoreline zone, so I'm pretty familiar. I've also had served on the planning board, so I'm quite aware of shoreline zoning, and I was on the planning board when the hotel project was considered. So I would consider myself quite an expert on the whole thing. I agree with almost everyone who has already come up to the podium. I would ask if the board has received the email that I sent with my concerns, and if that's been entered officially in the record, or do I have to reiterate all that here in person?
The board has received your email, Doug.
Okay, so it is in the record now, and it is being considered. So I don't have to repeat everything that I mentioned in my lengthy email. You want me to hit the highlights?
Maybe.
Maybe you could highlight for the benefit of the crowd here.
So one of my concerns was that in the consent agreement, it appears as if the CEO has taken credit for determining the violations. The wording is almost identical to the words that were shared by Jeff Kalinich at DEP. And it appears as if that's been copied from the review that he made at the site, and that it's being credited to her in the consent agreement. I really don't like her being credited. If you're going to credit somebody for having made those determinations, evaluations, and recommendations, I would prefer it to be, we have the email from Mr. Kalinich from September 11, 2025, from him to the CEO and to the town manager of what he determined on site when he saw it. So it shouldn't be credited to the CEO. That's one concern. I also know that if you look at the very first requirement of the approval for this project, under the findings of fact and ruling of law, and it was signed by the planning board. We all signed it. The very first condition of that is that any changes made to this, including a change to their landscaping plan or revegetation plan or whatever you want to call it, any change is required to go through the planning board, not through the CEO. The CEO cannot handle that. It needs to go back to the planning board. That's required. Look at it. It's page 17 of the findings of fact and ruling of law from 2019. So I referenced that for you in my email to you all. It's very important because it needs to go back to the planning board, so the planning board can go through the entire process of reconsideration of what's appropriate to remediate this problem. I would also agree and mimic what everybody else has said here, that if penalties or fines are going to be levied, that they would need to be substantial enough to make it painful so that this particular developer doesn't continue to do these things, and future people don't see it as a green light to do these things, and know that that's just part of their construction costs and factor it in, because this number is in the noise for somebody building $1 million home on a lakefront property, right? $4,000, cut a few trees so they increase the property value by way more than that. Also, we all, just as on a personal note now, we all have to look at that hotel as we come down the hill on Main Street and see it wide open through the trees, which personally, it bothers me every time I drive down there. So, and I agree with everything everybody else said about third party. We have 2 third-party evaluations already. The Q team has done an evaluation and found that the Teradyne's proposal was not in compliance with shoreline zoning. So the planning board missed that. They should have caught that. I had recused myself, so I'm not blaming myself. So,
Smart man.
yes, thank you. So I didn't miss it. I found a lot of violations above and beyond this, but I'm going to stay on point, as you asked. There's more, and hopefully when the planning board reopens this, we'll get to those. My point is, though, we need to do better at making sure that it doesn't happen again, and it doesn't happen with other people as well, right? So it's not just about this developer. I have nothing personally against this developer. What I'm saying is it needs to be stopped so that everybody gets a clear message. And the way this current consent agreement is written does not send that message. So I'm certainly asking that you vote no to accept this one and perhaps revise it, and maybe let's have another meeting or send it back to the planning board for, to go through the full process. So those are my comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? Follow up, Tom. Gotta get up to the mic, though.
Tom Smith, I'm going to butter over in Connecticut. The last point I mentioned, Doug triggered this, is I'm not sure how, I see agenda item 5 in here is the one that says basically to go ahead and move to approve and authorize the Bridgton town manager to sign the consent agreement between the town of Bridgton and the hotel Bridgton, et cetera, there. I don't see how you can do that given all that you've heard here tonight, as well as the fact that the owner of the project didn't even think was well enough to show up for himself on this, and sent his other representatives. Thank you.
Whoops, way in the back there. Roger.
Hi, Roger Lowell, Chadbourne Hill Road, Bridgton. I guess the fact that this was done in the first place bothers me, but what bothers me probably even more than that is that it appears that it was done intentionally. There were plans in place that clearly spelled out what should and shouldn't be done. Any contractor who's been working in the Lake Region area for the last 20 years should be well aware of shoreland zoning and what the regulations are. So I just feel that if that is the case, the fine needs to be substantially more than it is so that we don't promote this type of activity in the future. Thank you.
Peter, hold on, wait. Somebody coming up.
Huh?
No, Peter, there's somebody coming up. They'll go to you next.
Good evening. My name is Mark Harmon. I live here in Bridgton my whole life. I think what the board needs to do, because Bridgton is growing and growing and growing. This project has been the biggest project this town has seen, and it happens to be in shoreline zoning. I think the board should adopt a policy or a thing saying if a permit is allowed for this, let's use a hotel, permit was allowed to do this. The first time they violate any of the conditions on it, it should be stopped until it's rectified or come up with it, or just pull it all together and leave it sitting there. I don't think they should be allowed to do it because everybody in this room doesn't like it. And if you give him just a slap on the wrist, everybody else is gonna do it. If I bought a house on a lake and I knew I could clear cut right to the water and pay a $5,000 fine, I would do it every day of the week. But you can't allow that. Everybody in this room loves these lakes, they love the water. We can't let it get destroyed. So I don't know if there's a policy, or I don't know what the town manager would call it, but a policy or something to stop this type of behavior. Because everybody said it, $5,000 fine for McIver is nothing. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Peter Lowell, Muirfield Village again. It just occurred to me that I have property on Stevens Brook a little further downstream, and the Stevens Brook Trail crosses through my property, and as it does this property. So when the details of a revegetation plan are considered, whoever does this should be aware of that trail, which has been there since the 70s, and just make accommodation for it so that we don't come back again with other problems. And the other point I just occurred to me is this talk about the ground cover, those very small plants and the forest duff that are another very important element of the shoreline buffer, that replanting those with native species in appropriate density and not using bark chips or mulch, which would kill the chances of those plants revegetating, is important. Thanks.
Anyone else? And if you hit it behind a pole, I can't see you, so. All right, I think we are good. Is there anyone on the video feed there? Someone raise a hand? All right. I will then close the public hearing. Thank you. Sure, we can vote on that. I don't think we have to vote on closing the public hearing, but we'll close it. All right, immediately following, the action item is listed. Does anyone want to make a motion? Bob?
Yes, I did that, I didn't have my motion for it. I'll just read it off the paper. And that is to approve and authorize the town manager to sign the consent agreement. Can everybody hear me now? How about now? I can't sing, so. To hear, no, we already did that. To approve and authorize the town manager to sign the consent agreement with the town of Bridgton, Hotel Bridgton LLC, and Justin McIver.
A second for discussion. Dan seconds for discussion.
I have a question. Under fees, costs, and penalties, there's the 16,000, 12,000 to reimburse legal fees and costs, and 4,000, it says in daily fines. What does that mean, in daily fines? Is that $4,000 a day?
Per day.
Our attorneys
From
would like to respond to.
From what date, and until what date?
Sure, yeah, so.
Ben, if you could get to the microphone.
Sure, yeah, so the total fine is $4,000 that's proposed. And that's simply, that reference to daily fines and penalties is a reference to the language within your ordinance, rather than the imposition of a $4,000 fine per day.
So it's $4,000 per day
No, so the total amount of the penalty is $16,000. And one component of that is $12,000. And the second component of that is $4,000, computed at a rate of $500 for each of the 8 trees that were cut.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. I had a few comments to make, and really the first two are just to inform the public that the select board never saw this consent agreement until it was published on the town website, however many days ago that was. Similarly, the select board never saw the email from September 11th until it was forwarded to them by a member of the community. So I want to make sure people understand the timeline here and the amount of time that the select board itself has had to consider this pretty complicated agreement. My next comment, and Carmen, you'll be up next, so you don't tire your hand out. My next comment was, again, which I think many of the people who spoke at length about the precedent it sets for future development, future house building, and indeed the one thing that I think everyone consistently in survey after survey across all of Bridgton agrees that the waterfront is our greatest resource, and that we need to do everything we can to protect it. The second piece that everyone, well, almost everyone I think mentioned, was the key piece that goes with the agreement of how to do the plannings and what the plannings are. Personally, as I go to vote, I consider this agreement to be incomplete, because I think the consent agreement should have not only the fees, costs, and penalties, which I agree are small and again set the precedent for the future of similar behavior, but it should also have what people have identified, experts in the area have identified as a key component, which is the details of the landscaping plan, which I understand has just today been received by the town. Carmen?
Oh, so, because of some of the comments that you made, I'm a little concerned about the technicality that the vegetation plan must be reviewed by the planning board. Deb, could you speak to that? I know it's been reviewed by state officials and submitted to the CEO today.
Yeah, so I don't want to speak out of school here, because if something does come before this board somehow, I just need to be careful what I say. What I understand is, and what I recall, without having the application in front of me, I did review the findings of fact and conclusions of law today, is when we approved it, we approved a landscaping plan. Now, I don't have access to that landscaping plan because it's no longer on the OneDrive. I'm sure I can get access to it if I need to. And there was also a pre-existing conditions, which hopefully would have shown, again, I'd have to look at it, but the pre-existing condition maps shows generally where all the growth on the property is. And then the landscaping plan and site plan show what's to be cut. And as you all know, there was a specified number of trees that were to be cut. And in addition, I think, words to the effect of diseased or invasive species around a lake. So our plan had a specific landscaping plan and specific findings around the shoreland zone and what could be cut, or what was to be cleared. If that landscaping plan, which is from June 2019, before we had the consolidated code and before we had some of the current changes in the code, if that landscaping plan is not being followed or is being modified, then in that case, that's a change to the approval, in my opinion, and that should come back to the board. If there has been a separate violation in the stream protection district or the growth, one of those is the GD2 district, I believe, growth, general development 1, which allows you to get, I believe, within 25 or 50 feet of the stream. So, yeah, if I could speak. So if the ordinance, as it exists today, was violated in those areas separate from the approval by the board, I believe the code does give the code enforcement officer authority. Could it have come to the board? Sure, it could have come to the board because it had the connection, because it's a very obviously sensitive and controversial topic. But I do believe, and our attorney is here, I do believe that the code, if it's a violation of the code for shoreland zoning and not a violation of the approval, the code enforcement officer has the authority to correct that, and they have the authority to use whatever resources they feel are necessary given, obviously budget constraints. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I tried. I
think you said no.
I didn't hear anybody say that, let me correct myself. In reading the consent agreement, it does not say that there was a violation of the planning board approval. And assuming that's accurate, then I think it's a separate violation that the code enforcement officer has authority for. That's my opinion.
Would it be possible?
She can make the decision.
Would it be possible, and I don't know if you can do it on the fly or not, Ben, but would it be possible for you to review the documents and come to some conclusion on, I don't know, page 17 from the finding? Again, it's really kind of a legal ease sort of thing, and I'm not sure if you can do it on the fly or if you need to
come to a conclusion about what findings? Are we talking about page 17 of the original decision itself, or?
No.
So here the question is, somebody brought up that according to the site plan review and the findings of fact done by the planning board, that any changes have to be brought back to the planning board for approval. So my question was, even if we wanted to pass this tonight, does that revegetation plan have to go back before the planning board?
So, in my opinion, code enforcement officer is very clearly vested with the authority to enforce your ordinance and to enforce decisions that the planning board has reached, right? And the conclusion that she reached and that DEP also reached is that the tree cutting that occurred violated the provisions of your existing ordinance, right? And the mechanism, or one of the mechanisms, in order for the code enforcement officer to ensure that that is corrected is a consent agreement, which is before you today. And, obviously a planning board process wouldn't address things like fines and attorney's fees, which I know is something that's important to this board. As some of the commenters, public commenters raised and noted, Jeff Kalinich pointed out that his position was that the original landscaping plan was not consistent with the current provisions of the shoreline zoning ordinance. And I would point out that at the time that plan was being reviewed by the planning board, it was a different iteration of the ordinance and not specifically this code. However, that plan having been final for a number of years, in my opinion, there isn't a mechanism for the planning board to sua sponte reopen its decision and bring that plan into compliance if it was inconsistent, right? And certainly it's not necessarily my position that it was. But what is intended to happen, or what this agreement is intended to do, is ensure that what happens down there and the replantings are consistent with the current iteration of your ordinance. So what goes on down there, the revegetation is trued up with what the ordinance currently requires. And I think this board and the code enforcement officer have the authority to enter into a consent agreement that accomplishes that. I don't necessarily think that it does require planning board review. I will say, without having reviewed them in the moment, I know that there is a mechanism for the code enforcement officer to approve minor incidental revisions to plans, to site plans. Arguably this could potentially fall within that authority, although I'd have to go back and again review those provisions. But no, my opinion is that this issue falls within the purview of the code enforcement officer's enforcement authority. And what you are doing is considering an agreement that ensures that the landowner's feet will be held to the fire, and that he'll agree to these terms and carry out these plantings consistent with the provisions of your existing ordinance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Despite all that, I still have great troubles with calling this a complete consent agreement, since the provisions of the key piece of it, which is the revegetation plan, are unknown, other than that they will only meet the minimum requirements of the land use code. I'm not sure if the firm that's doing them is the same firm who did the original ones. I don't know that. I don't know who the firm is, and obviously no one has had a chance to review them. I'm stuck on that point, and I am definitely stuck on the size of the fines and penalties and what it means for the future of Bridgton, for house development, commercial development, and any other kind of development you can think of on the vast amount of shoreland that we are so interested in guarding, and we have so much of, that it involves many, many development plans. Carrie, do you have any comments?
I agree with you. I think we might need to look into this a little bit more. For the record, did Mr. Kalinich concur with Brenda's conclusion that those terms for the fines per tree were concurrent with state rules and not just the town of Bridgton, as some of the people who spoke had said?
I don't think he comments, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he comments on the size of fines. I don't believe that that's in his bailiwick. I think that is up to the individual towns to determine the size of the fines that they want to apply to violations.
So I'm sorry. Another point was made that actually I thought might be relevant. In the consent agreement, it refers to the CEO doing the inspections and all this stuff for a period of 5 years. And it was a good point. It doesn't ever say qualified designee. So I'm wondering if this consent agreement allows the CEO to hire somebody else or refer this to somebody with expressly shoreline zoning experience to do the inspections. This can be onerous. You got to put it on your calendar. You got to remember it every year. Everything changes. And Brenda, cover your ears. Maybe our CEO will change. You know, I don't know. So, does this consent agreement allow that latitude for a designee?
I'll just give my opinion as I read it, that the town would be able to hire consultants to consult on any issue that they wanted them to consult on, although the final decision would still be up to the CEO. But again, the way it reads, the financial burden would again be on the town, not on the developer.
Okay, so it would allow to have somebody else do the inspection.
Present their findings to Brenda, see whether Brenda.
But not for reimbursement.
Agreed with them, but there's absolutely no provision in here for any further reimbursement to the town, really for any item.
Because it refers specifically to the CEO in all cases.
Dan, did you have any comments to make, or?
Well, the one comment I wanted to make, and maybe I misheard this earlier, was that I thought the suggested violation dollar amount was discussed with the DEP personnel.
I don't.
So DEP didn't do a figure, but when we were on site and then afterwards we discussed it, and he said, you know, to the extent of what happened, that a minimal fine would be all we would need to do. He didn't feel it was.
I thought I heard something about it. I didn't hear a dollar figure, but it
He said
wasn't.
it was up to the town, but you know.
But a minimal fine is what they suggested.
Other towns and other violations, this was a minimal.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll just add, because I don't know that it's been referenced publicly, but Jeff did weigh in today, and he has reviewed this agreement, and the correspondence that he sent to Brenda this morning indicated that, you know, from his perspective, this agreement is consistent with the town and the department's compliance findings, along with the mandatory Shoreland Zoning Act and the department's Chapter 1000 standards. So Brenda and I have certainly interpreted that to mean that the DEP is comfortable with this agreement.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, did Justin's lawyer say that, or did you say that?
It came from Jeff County.
No, Jeff, the DEP.
That came from the DEP.
Which I sent to all of you earlier today.
Yep.
So.
I'm sorry, it was DEP. I thought you said
It
Justin.
was in response to
Bob, do you have any thoughts on this topic?
No, the only thing I'm going to say is that I certainly understand where everybody is coming from. I've been involved in many of these projects that have been some legal issues done with him, and they were fined. And in comparison that, I think it was out in West Bridgton where an individual right off of 302 cut every single tree there was all the way down to the lake. Now that fine and all of the requirements that were made of that homeowner were a lot heavier and a lot more than the fines that are being recommended to this project. And then as I look at all of the ones that I've been involved in, and I look at their size and the amount of fines that they were put on them, I think this one here falls, and you're not going to be happy with this, but it falls within that category or zone because of the size of the project, or the size of the damage that was created. Isn't appropriate about this. It's a fair fine as far as I am concerned. And that's all I have to say at this point.
My only suggestion is that I believe we are going to see, at this level of fine, I believe we're going to be doomed to see many more of these. And the many more that we see will only really truly be the tip of the iceberg of those that are caught. Because to me, this gives a lot of leeway for people to take the chance to do it, thinking, oh, I'm building this house. They may or may not come after me, and I built this house, and if they do come after me, maybe it's only going to cost me a little bit of money. And we will see those people come before us, and they will pay the fine. They will have a revegetation plan, and they will chalk it up on the $2 million house to rounding.
And Paul, what you're saying is absolutely correct. What I've seen go on, and we will probably see it go on because some people can either afford the fines, they don't care about the fines, they don't care about the lakes, they only want their house where they can have their parties, etc., and they may only own the house for 5 years and leave the town of Bridgton. You're absolutely right. That's the unfortunate part of us wanting to live on the lake. And we can do the best that we can do. Housing and projects being on the lakes, properties are fastly disappearing. So what we're going to have is what's built there, and some of those people are going to cut down trees, put in lawns, do every type of, put in invasive plants. Unfortunately, we don't live with all people who are concerned about the lakes, other than the fact that as long as they own their house. And then once they leave, they don't care about it.
I may be an incurable optimist, but I think we can do better.
I didn't say that. I didn't say we couldn't do better. We can also do worse.
All right, is there any further comments before we vote on the motion that's on the table?
So, just for clarification, in terms of the agreement, it gives Brenda the authority to monitor for that 5-year period. The revegetation plan that was sent in this morning, if that doesn't meet requirement, that is not part of this consent agreement. That can still be changed, correct? Okay. From what I understand, is that if everything, yes, that is 100% correct. That's why I'm asking the authority that is here for that. If,
Do you want me to clarify that?
yes, please.
So what Dan is saying is, I received the vegetation plan today, and once I review it, if it doesn't meet the standards of the shoreline zoning, I can go back and say, I need more, I need this fixed, I need this corrected, and they have to keep submitting it until it meets the shoreline zoning code.
Okay. Next question I have, that Brenda, you may want to stay up there. The next question I have.
Minimum requirements, correct? As long as it meets the minimum requirements of the.
It meets the requirements for the shoreline
Has to
zoning.
meet, it has to meet the ordinance of today.
And in that revegetation plan, when they put back what they're supposed to, it needs to meet the current points, or the point system for the shoreline zoning, which is at 25 by 50 grid to keep. So if you cut down a tree that's 6 points, you got to put back 6 points.
Correct.
Now, not necessarily a 6-point tree, but it could be a combination to get back.
They gotta come up with their 6 points.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I do think that that's an important point, because it does not have to be a 6-point tree. So it does not have to have a height, for example, consistent with a 6-point tree. You can plant 5 trees that are, 6 trees that are 1 point.
I could be wrong, but I thought within the shoreline zone, within the point system,
The specifications.
there's specifications of sizes. Like, you can't go in and, Colin, I know you're more of an expert than I am on this. I can't go into an area back in the day of a 25 by 50 grid, and it says, okay, you need to have 50 points, and I'm just gonna use round numbers just for tonight. You need to maintain 50 points when you're doing any type of tree clearing. So I can't go in there and take down all the lower stuff and just keep the massive trees that are each worth 12 points and keep 5 of those and keep, hey, I got 60 points. You said I only need 50. It has to be a combination of mature trees, small trees, and the underbrush vegetation. Am I correct in saying that, Colin?
Yes.
Okay.
But the trees start counting as points at 2 inches in diameter at 4.5 feet above the ground. So that's where you can start to get 1 point. It needs to be a significant tree to have it even count as one.
Correct.
So a lot of saplings don't even count as one.
Correct.
Okay. All right, are there any further comments? Then we will vote on the motion that's on the table. Whoops.
Can you just restate the motion, what's on the table, please?
To approve and authorize the town manager to sign the consent agreement with the town of Bridgton, Hotel Bridgton LLC, and Justin MacGyver. And the consent agreement is the attached consent agreement that references a revegetation plan. All those in favor? 3, all those opposed? 2. Approval of minutes. Whoops. Bob?
I'd recommend a 5-minute.
What's that?
5-minute break. 5-minute break.
All right, 5-minute break. All right, we will adjourn for 5 minutes, and so we will resume at 10 of 7. We are going to resume.
It's always been.
Approval of minutes. February 10th, 2026 minutes.
Move to approve the February 10th, 2026 board minutes.
All in favor? 5-0. New business. MSAD 61 budget presentation. Superintendent Smith.
I was kind of thinking everybody was here for me, but I guess not.
I thought they all were too, Alan.
Well, if we had this information in advance, they might have.
Yeah, that's true. So I do want to recognize I have several board members here tonight. Carl Swanson Murphy, Board Chair, Vice Chair Sharon Menegoni, and 3 other board members.
All of the Bridgton members. All the Bridgton members are here. Reverse.
We like that. Thank you. And just for the record, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Al Smith. I'm the superintendent of schools.
Thank you.
And I'll go through the budget. I have a couple of things at the end that are, one's budgetary, and I guess the other one's sort of budgetary, because I'd like to talk a little bit at the end about the memorial building and where the town is at with that. So, as far as the budget goes, I think it's a pretty straightforward, simple budget this year. There isn't a lot of frills to it. I did give you a document, it's the same document I have, and what it does is it outlines our 11 cost centers and what is adjusted or added to the budget. The 2 things as you go through the difference area, sometimes you'll see a high percent of difference. More often than not, that is either a teacher being moved to another area, instructional area, and oftentimes it is special ed for following a particular student, and or it's salary adjustments or insurance adjustments. And as you guys all realize too, salaries and benefits are, 83% of your budget, and that holds true with us. So the first cost center is our regular educational instruction, and that goes right from our pre-K to our high school. And you'll see that we are adding a grade 4 teacher at the Crooked River Elementary School, and that's due to enrollment. We are starting to see a significant growth in enrollment in the Casco, Naples area. Even at our Songolock School, our class sizes are going to be larger next year, but we're still at a place where we don't need to add another teacher this coming year, but I'm not sure about the future. There's also a staff person that will be shared with the high school for our GT program. That's gifted and talented that we needed to add more staffing for. And then we're starting to get a greater population of our English language learner students. So we are adding a full-time EdTech 3 person to help with those kids managing their life as they come through. So you can see that's obviously a huge percentage increase because we did not have that person before. As you go through article number 2, that is our special ed costs. We don't have a lot of additional growth there. We do have an incoming student that is very high needs, so we're preparing for that student. So you do see where at the Songolox building, we are having to add a specific person for that student. And that's all for the special ed area that is new, or will be new for next year. Career and tech is the education for Article 3. That's very straightforward. We have not added any additional programs that are going to be a cost to the district. We are adding a new program, Marine Tech, to that area. It'll start out small. We are working with 2 local marinas that are going to actually have the students at their marina, but yet they'll be following the process and procedures that have to be followed by the DOE, the educational side of it, but also they'll have on-the-site training. And Marine Tech isn't what you might think it is. Everybody thinks of a motor. Well, there's so much more. There's anything from repairing boats to boat storage to winterization to unwinterizing. I guess that might be right. So there's a lot to it. So there's a lot that the kids will be involved in. We're planning between 6 and 8 students to start with that program, and hopefully it'll grow. Article 4 is all other instruction, that's like co-curricular, athletics and things of that nature. And we are adding 2 stipends to that area. We have a very active band person now, and that person would like to, and we already do have a little bit of a marching band, but they would like to expand it greater. And we're actually going to combine with Greater Gloucester. So they'll have a bigger marching band aspect. The kids, we had about 30 kids participate this year. They really enjoyed it, and so I think it's a real growth area. We also had a chess club in the last couple of years, but this year in particular, it's really taken off. And Tom Cody's been doing it, math teacher at the high school. It's been very well received. So we'd like, and that's one area that kids would like to see more of, those type of activities, not just the basketball, football type of thing. So we are adding a stipend for Mr. Cody to continue that. We also need a new scoreboard at the baseball field. We're in desperate need of that. That one's in very rough shape. And we need a new gator, and what that is a piece of equipment, kind of like a UTV that transports anything from water jugs to transporting kids that might get hurt and things of that nature and taping kids up. The one we have is really rough, so that money was put in for that. Article 5 is student and staff supplies. That's all of our regular ed, and as well as some technology and guidance services and things of that nature. There hasn't been any additional new areas of increase in that article, nor has there been any additional requests for Article 6, which is my office and all the secretaries and HR people and all the things that go along with that. Article 7 is all the other administrators, high school principals, assistant principals, all the secretaries that go along there. And again, the only increase in those last 3 areas is the salaries and benefits that we don't have any control over. Transportation is an area that is more and more becoming a challenge for us, quite honestly. The roads in the state of Maine and the process they're using to keep ice and whatnot is a constant battle for us, even though we have a wash bay garage, we even have underneath carriage wash. We're typically getting about 5 years out of our buses, and the frames are going on. But even at the end of 5 years or 6 years, we actually have about 300 to 350,000 miles on a bus. So it has been brought up to me more often than not, well, why don't you rust-proof them? Well, I looked into 2 different types of rust-proofing. Would it enhance the life of the frame of the bus? Probably, but yet we wouldn't get any more than 5 years out of it with the rust-proofing piece, because the life of the bus and the engine and everything else is outlived itself. So we are typically buying 1 to 3 buses a year. This year we'll be needing 1 large bus and 2 small buses, and we will do what's called a lease purchase, so it'll be over a 3-year period of time. But transportation has become quite a cost place for us. Buses used to be, not all that many years ago, around $85,000. A bus now, a large bus is about $140, and a small bus is about $125. So it's the way it is, and we're doing the best we can to try to get the lowest prices, but you're at the mercy of it.
And they go in traditional on that, right?
What's that?
Traditional buses?
Yes.
Nothing electric, nothing?
No, we stayed completely away from all that. Thank goodness we have. I've got a fellow superintendent that has offered me 7 brand-new buses. And I said, when you retrofit them with diesel, I'll take them. So, yeah, he can't give them away. It's kind of a running joke, sad running joke, but it's kind of a running joke. So we are getting 3 buses there. The one area that we have put a lot of money into this coming year is our maintenance and facilities. Everything's just coming due. We've got a water fire pump at the middle school that needs to be replaced.
That's true with everything.
Yeah, well,
including town
and it's crazy what stuff is costing. The fire pump for the middle school, it's still passing code, but it's not going to survive. It's $75,000. We've got some water mitigating pieces that we need to put in. That's another 40, 50,000. We have some roof repairs to do. And you guys know you deal with this all the time. And it's just, as you can read through the different things that are there. And so we are putting a lot of money in our facilities. I am that superintendent, and so is the board, that if we don't take care of what we have, how can we ask for more? And I think if you go into any of our facilities, you'll find that we take very, very good care of them. They're always clean, always in very good shape and very inviting. So we are putting a lot of money into that particular area this coming year. And I won't go over everything that's there. It's pretty much self-explanatory, unless you want me to. You've been here quite a while. Debt service, we did retire a bond this past year. That obviously is helping our expenditures and percent, and that I'll get to at the end, which that seems to be the most enjoyable part for everybody to see where that's at. Our adult ed program is growing. We are getting more and more students, so that there is a little bit of increase to that area. And it's nice that we have a lot of, I think we have 33 adult ed learners that are going for what used to be the GED, now it's the high set. That's a nice number of people that have come back to us that want to get their education and really growing. And we also have a lot of those kids now that are kids, young adults, kids to me, that are actually going on to take college courses too. And they can do some of their preliminary college courses right through the Adult Ed Center. So it really gets them off to a great start. So there is a little bit of increase into the adult ed area. The place that you're probably the most interested in is what is going to happen to your assessments this year. There's a couple things to take note. As you look down at Bridgton, your actual increase that we're putting forth as a budget is 3.92%. And Casco is 3.29%, and Naples, because of property values, is almost 8%. But I do want to let you know that, and I'll go over the property values on the next page. The property values for Bridgton were much nicer this year than last year as far as the growth. Because if you remember last year, they were sky high compared to where you were the year before. So you are at a little bit under 5%, whereas Casco is a little bit under 3%, and Naples was almost 10%. So had we not put money back into the budget, fund balance money, you have the same idea, but you don't call it the same thing, your percent of increase would have been almost 8%. But where we put a little over $1 million back into the budget, and where the debt did get relieved, we were able to reduce the actual cost for the town of Bridgton at 3.92%. Our budget itself is up, I think it's, I don't want to get it wrong, I think it's 3.5 if I remember. I think it was 3.57 if I remember right, is what our actual school budget is up. So what we've really done is we've offset, by putting fund balance monies back into the budget, we've really offset our increases and actually brought down your valuations a little bit also. And we did this, and we've done this before to help Bridgton out. We've done it before to help Casco out. The way this formula works, there always seems to be winners and losers, so to speak, as to how much you have to contribute. And this year, unfortunately, Naples had a substantial increase compared to the other two communities. So in order to help everybody out, we were actually able to help you guys out a little bit more than perhaps some others, the way we played it out. So hopefully, you're welcome to ask any questions you want. I do have two other things I want to talk about. But if you have any questions about that part of the budget, I would certainly entertain it. I do want to point out that I say this every year, free and reduced lunch pieces that I ask people to fill out are so, so important, and I'll give you the short cliff notes of how that works.
Could I interrupt and ask a question quick before you get into that?
Sure.
The estimated town assessments in total are up 5%. What did you say the budget total was up?
3.57.
3.57, I think it was, yeah. Yeah, so what happens is, that's what our school budget's up, but because of your property valuations that play into the budget, then it increases the percent.
So across the three towns, you're saying the state aid formula has significantly reduced?
It never, even though each community, believe it or not, is pretty close now. Bridgton actually is a little bit higher. You've got about 41% of the budget, but the budgets between the three communities are pretty close. But the formula doesn't work that way because it plays off your property values and it plays off of what your property value increases were over the course of the year. So it doesn't play fair. I mean, you'd like to be able to say, okay, this is the increase, we divide it by 3, and this is the way it works, but it doesn't, unfortunately. And to kind of play off that a little bit more, we're a low receiver area, which means we get little to no support from the state. If we didn't get socioeconomic disadvantaged funds, and that comes straight from those forms that I ask everybody to fill out, and if you're not over that 50% threshold, you're not going to get any money from the state. And had we not gotten that money, and if we didn't get our 50% support for our special ed program, we would have only received a little over 3% subsidy from the state. By getting those other two cost factors in, again, it's not gigantic, but it's certainly much better than what that is. We're a little over 18% state subsidy. So it is significant to get those forms in and where we are or where we aren't. And it's going to be even more significant, I hope. I'm part of the funding committee, actually the superintendent of Cumberland County for the funding committee, and we've been meeting for a little over 3 years now to reformulate what's called Act 279, which is the support document that we get from the state. And they've actually, moving forward, new funding pieces within that formula that will significantly help us. And hopefully that'll go through. It hasn't got a bill number yet. I will get that bill number to you when I have it. There are 5 areas of support. One of the areas that we get totally burnt on is our housing index. And the way that works, a regional index, it takes all of your properties and what they valued at, and then it compares them to, say, Wyndham or Portland, and so there's a little unfairness there to that, because we still have to pay the same amount of money or close to the same amount of money for our teachers and our benefits and all the other pieces that go along with it. So one area that they finally are going to change is our regional index. And we will now, if this goes forward and pushes through, we will now have the same regional index as all of the other Cumberland County school districts. And right now we're at 0.94. We will go to a 1.18, which is huge when you start multiplying it times millions of dollars. There's some transportation pieces and there's some socioeconomic disadvantage pieces that will play into this formula also. I hope it has good ears and I hope it moves forward because it's time. This formula has not been changed for 25, 30 years. And certainly society and costs have changed far more than that. So the other thing I want to bring forward...
Before you move on to
yep, sure.
could you address the last page?
That's what I'm going to do right now.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Carla. That was a great introduction. So the last thing, next to the last thing I want to bring forward is we have been slowly trying to provide not only warming centers, but also taking care of the kids better by having generators in our buildings. We now have a generator at Crooked River. We have a generator at the high school. And we have a generator at Stevens Brook Elementary School. We still don't have one at Songalox, which pretty vulnerable kids. It's pre-K to 2. We don't have one at our ESB building, which is really kind of the mecca center of what we need. It has all of our busing, it has all of our communications, it has all of our facilities equipment, it has all our busing repair, and to not have a generator there is quite honestly ridiculous. And we don't have one at the middle school yet. So what I have before you is, and I've never really quite done it this way, I'm kind of asking you what your thoughts are because it outlines pretty clearly what it will do to your budget to move any of these forward, and the way they would be moved forward would be a separate article question. So it wouldn't be the budget question, and we've done this with all of our generators, so this isn't something I'm doing differently than I've done before. Whenever we've put it forward for a generator, it's been a separate question. So if we did put a generator forward for the ESB building where all of our busing and communication pieces are, it would be $165,000 for that generator, and that's installed. But it would increase your budget, however you chose to look at it, by $70,000 or 0.56%. If we were to do both generators, just the Songalox generator, then it would be $104,000 to your community or 0.84%. And if we were to do both, which would be $410,000, that would be an increase of 1.4%. After thinking this through a little bit more, I've already met with Naples. I strongly would recommend, and I'll talk to Donnie later on as to what your conversation will be around this as to where you'd like to go with it. I would strongly recommend at least the minimum of the ESB building of the $165,000. We really do need that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to have a warming center and have other things happen, but yet we don't have any communication, we don't have any way to fix buses, we don't have any way to manage some of the facility pieces that all happen out of that building. So that would be my minimal that I'd like to see go forward with your blessing as well as the board's blessing.
Mr. Superintendent, would that be close to 3% or 4% more than the 4 we talked?
So right now you're at 3.92. You would have to add the, 0.56 to it. So you'd be right around 4.5 at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit less than that, but.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then is the actual dollar amount is there also, so you may have a different idea of how you wish to fund it or how you wish to go in that direction. But the actual dollar amount as well as a percent is there.
Okay.
Yes, Karen?
So could you tell me what happens when the power's out and you need these generation systems? Usually when the power's out, school isn't in play. So what is the generator system being used?
So I'll give you a kind of a vision of what happens. We did have an extensive power outage this year, and it just happened to hit the middle school and the high school. They're in tandem, so to speak. And you know, it's absolutely amazing when we lose our power. It seems like almost every kid has to go to the bathroom. You know? So, and they know that within an hour, if we're not going to get our power back, I typically will send kids home. Okay. At the middle school and the high school, you don't worry quite as much because most of them are old enough and you can get a hold of parents. They know that they're kind of okay to take care of themselves. The elementary is not so lucky. But what we did this year, because we do have the generator at the high school, they were fine. I actually sent buses down to the middle school, and it wasn't perfect, it wasn't ideal, but they were able to get on the bus and go up to the high school and go to the bathroom. What was amazing about that, I didn't see this coming, is there were far less kids that had to go to the bathroom after that. So, I don't know. And then about 2.5 hours later, 3 hours, we did get our power back. So it wasn't an all-day thing. But the middle school, they're a little bit more mobile. The elementary, I really don't have much choice. If it's really a difficult situation, Stephen Brook's great now. We have a generator. We just, life goes on. Nothing changes. High school, nothing changes. Crooked River, nothing changes. So what I can do with the elementary, if I need a warming place or I need a place to keep them safe, and I just can't get everything transported quickly enough, I can get them over to Crooked River. So I do have an alternative. It's not ideal, but I do have that. I will say, if we do move forward with the least amount, which is the ESB building, you will see me here next year asking for the Songalux generator, and then a year later, I would look at the middle school. You know, the middle school is a little odd. When the addition got built on that building, the power grid got split in half, so it actually would be two smaller generators. But that's a couple years down the road before I come back. Yeah.
Can you just explain that at the younger grades, if you do send them home early, there are certain age limit where you can't leave?
Oh, we don't leave if we make the phone calls, and that's why I say we have the auxiliary opportunity of taking them over to Crooked River if we have to. If the parents aren't there, we can't get a hold of parents, or if when they're transported, nobody's there, they'll loop them back to Crooked River. So we don't allow or leave little ones at all.
But in the event, I think one of the things Carmen was going towards, in the event that you lose power at the ESP building, I happened to work there for a few years.
Yep.
When that power goes out, you lose all your communication to call these parents, correct? Or the buses talking back and forth to each other.
So
the new phones, again, it's been a few years since I worked there.
So we're sort of starting to remedy this. We've gone to a computer system that we're able to access from the high school if we have to.
Okay.
It's just not ideal. It's called BusRite. The parents love it because it actually notifies them within seconds of when the bus is at their door or when they're going to be picked up, and they have an app on their phone so they can follow it. So it goes through the cloud. It's a different system, but it's not ideal. You really do need that power source at the ESB building. And if you've worked there, you know, it's just all of a sudden, it's dark. You know,
Mm-hmm. And that would do that whole building, including the vocational part?
Yep.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, because we do have two vocational pieces there. We have automotive and we have
construction. Yep.
Yeah, so we take care of both of those.
Okay.
Yep. So that's where we're at with the budget piece. The last piece I would like to really kind of chat about is, it seems like a never-ending saga for me. I've been here a long time, and I think we've gotten to a point where we've done everything we can on our end to transfer the memorial building to you guys, and I'm just kind of wondering where you're at with this so that we can give you the building, you know, to be honest, and move on. It seems like, and it's not anyone's fault per se. I mean, you had some transitions, I'll call them, of managers and so forth, town managers and whatnot, so it does certainly put a monkey wrench in certain things that I thought would have been done, quite honestly, years ago. But the building is empty. We've cleaned everything out. We spoke to our attorney. We're ready to move whenever we can get this thing together.
You and I have struck a very good relationship since I've been here, and had some pretty interesting conversations. And of course, when I got here, I was tasked with maybe to try and help along with this. And you don't know me real well, but I'm not a very patient person, but I've had to be patient with this. And I've been asked by the board many times where we are, and I didn't want to really give any false hope, but we are very close to the finish line.
Oh, good. That's good to hear.
Our attorney has reached back out to yours. I'm not going to get into where things were before. I don't really care about that.
Yeah, right.
I know you, when I asked you to clean out the building, you had probably 8 dumpsters worth of stuff in there, and I truly appreciate it. I was there. I met Andy over there, went through again after. I believe this board is anxious to finally get to the finish line as well.
Good.
To tell you it's going to happen next week, no, but it is much closer. What I did say, however, is after you and I get this work done with all the people helping us, the real fun will begin, and I'm not sure I want to be part of all of that, because there's going to be a lot of people looking for a lot of ideas about what they're going to do with the building. So that'll be the probably a longer chapter.
And I wish you well with it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you do. But, yeah, I've been approached, I don't know how long since I've been here, and the board has talked to me about some ideas. And quite frankly, it'll be a real good discussion about what the community wants and what this board wants to do as well. But yes, we've come a long way, you and me, and I'm very, very pleased with the way we've worked together. So I was impatient early.
Whose turn is it, Don?
By June?
Is it our turn or their turn?
I kind of heard maybe next month, but I'm not sure.
It's your turn, for sure, it's your turn.
Yeah, it's our turn.
And I guess.
Well, that's fine, but, do we have an ETA, like?
We're ready to pass it over to you tomorrow, so it's really
We are
sitting on your.
Let me tell you, Carmen, you know me very well. I would have tried to do this with this gentleman a long time ago, but there are things with conditions and easements and things that we all worked out, finally, our attorneys did, because we had to tell them to do that. So we are, I'm not gonna say June, but I would hope it's June, absolutely. But if, Wayne, if you're watching television, I didn't say that, okay? That's not a guarantee, but yes, we are close, and Al's absolutely correct that we're getting very close to bring a package to all of you, absolutely. Yes, close.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your help with that, too.
Thank you.
And thank you all for hanging in there tonight.
It was interesting.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I was getting an opportunity to learn things.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I didn't think my landline was taking messages.
Yeah, so maybe that's why. Let me just tell you right now. It is.
Well, I'm sure you called my dad.
Yes, we have a document.
Thank God for that. I saw your email.
Okay.
Okay, 776.
That's not relevant.
Where's that smoke break if this meeting goes on?
All right, we're gonna get back on track.
Okay, one sec.
Getting ahead of it.
776.
2857. Okay, great, thank
New
you.
new business, B, proposed shoreline zoning changes to be considered for the annual town meeting warrant.
I'll move to place a warrant article on the upcoming June 9th, 2026 town meeting to revise the shoreline zone map as proposed.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? 5-0. New business, C. Maine Eco Homes request for usage of Bacon Street for Hotel Bridgton project.
Why?
What?
Why? That's my question. Why?
Because of the posted roads.
It's a posted road.
Posted roads.
So is that the access road that they've been using all along?
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Agreement, the same
Yeah.
We had the same agreement last year, and there's a bond been posted.
And that was gonna be my question before I made the motion.
Yeah.
The bond that they put up last year, is that bond still in place?
Yes.
Okay,
How much was that?
100,000.
Well, we might have to rebuild the road.
So what I can say, most of your trucking that happens, they do in the early mornings.
Yes.
And on a posted road, and Brenda, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe on a posted road, I can still drive an oversized vehicle on that road as long as the temperature is below 32 degrees. It only affects it when it gets above 32. So if you posted, we'll just call it Bacon Street, from February 28th to May 15th, trucks can still go in and out of that road, and any temperatures under 32. Once it gets above 32 degrees, that's when the posting comes into effect. The bond would cover them coming in and repairing any damage that would happen,
Yes.
above that 32 degree temperature. So it'll be a very short window of time frame
that, as we can all attest to this winter, we don't get above 32 too often from, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So it'll only affect it in that time frame. It's no different. I know we've had other ones that come in with the same type of request because of the posted road.
It is Bacon Street, right? This attachment says.
So that was my next question.
Bacon Street.
The next one.
I don't know why it says Beacon, I noticed that too.
Yeah, it said Beacon, so I would just say we need to make that change on that to Bacon, but I'll put it so we can do discussion. Move to grant an exemption to allow construction equipment for Hotel Bridgton project the right to traverse over Bacon Street during the time frame the road is posted, with the confirmation that we got of the bond is still in place.
Second. Any discussion?
So then it's not using Kennard Street at all?
Correct.
Correct. Again, they can still use Kennard Street if the temperature is below 32 degrees on a posted road.
Gotcha.
Correct?
They can't use Kennard
No.
Street for their construction.
No.
That's part of.
Is that, okay, so.
There's a sign, that was a.
But any other vehicle that, when a road is posted, because of the agreement with how they set it up with the hotel, they don't use Kennard Street. But if ABC Rubbish was coming down here on a posted road, they could still come down Kennard Street to a residence. Okay?
Yeah. Right? All in favor? 5-0. Business licenses and events requiring board approval.
You missed that D.
Oh my gosh, I missed D.
Thank you.
Set the public hearing for the discontinuance of Jim Douglas Road for March 10th, 2026.
Move to do so.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? 5-0.
Now you can go to 8.
Now I can go to 8, and I'm going to ask
May I
Carrie,
just- may I
who
just run-
specializes
thank you,
in
I'm
reading
ready.
them all.
I've been waiting all night. Move to approve victular renewal licenses for Beth's Kitchen Cafe at 108 Main Street, Big Apple number 1000 at 93 Main Street, Big Apple number 1107 at 16 Portland Street, Custom Cookies by Gigi, 8 Northwoods Lane.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none? All in favor? 5-0. All right, number 9, committee liaison reports. A, resignation letter from Nicola Fritz of the Investment Committee.
Accept a resignation letter from Nicola Fritz of the Investment Committee with thanks for her help.
I'll second.
All in favor? 5-0. I wanted to make an update on the Open Space Committee and Pondicherry Park Committee, who have been trying to work together to make sure that things are done efficiently. And also just to note that the committee is looking a little bit at Salmon Point in terms of in terms of future things at Salmon Point. No definitive thing. All right. Any other committee liaison reports? Okay. Project updates. Project updates by anyone? No. Public comments on town business. Each speaker may be limited to 3 minutes. Deb?
I'll definitely try to keep it to 3 minutes.
What? 3 minutes?
I'll get started. I'm done. First of all, this is just an idea at this point, but listening to everybody in this room tonight, and I guess what I'll call the care about the stream that runs through town. we may want to sometime in the future consider removing GD1 and/or GD2 districts. They're mostly developed now, et cetera. They allow you to get, actually, if you meet certain criteria, within 25 feet of the stream, not 50, not 75, okay? I won't go into all the history. It was done so the town could be developed in a certain way downtown, and I think that's good. But it may no longer be needed. And there's a lot of non-conforming lots and businesses already there that wouldn't fall under, wouldn't be harmed, I would say, if that changed. So just a thought that occurred to me that when we change our shoreline zoning maps, which at some point we'll have to because they're incorrect, that we might want to take a broader look at things, okay? The other comment is I just wanted to mention that, as you hopefully all know, we had our intertown group meeting last week on affordable housing on Thursday. It went about 2.5 hours. I think it was valuable for most of the people there. There were probably about 20 people there from other planning boards or select boards. I think probably 6 towns were represented, so it's a very high interest in this area. The towns wish to collaborate together where we can help each other or learn from each other. We did have the undivided attention of the Maine Office of Community Affairs Housing Program Director, so that was excellent. Paul did hog too much of his time, but other than that, it was very fruitful. So the challenge now will be to change the ordinances to agree with the state laws and rules that have been published. Certainly, Brenda is not here anymore, and neither is Ashley. We'll all be heavily involved with the board and the public and anybody interested as these are changed, and to try and make it both be consistent with the comprehensive plan and meet the state guidelines, which will be a challenge in some cases. So I just wanted to let you guys know that's coming. We have until July 1st, 2027 to make the changes to the code, which means the June town meeting 2027. I'm not advocating to do it any sooner than that because we need to do it properly. So that's it. My speech on affordable housing. We're working on it. We've been working on it for years.
All right, and select board comments and discussion items.
Okay, wonderful.
Maybe you can stop anytime you want. I'm working on affordable housing.
Well, there's been criticism that the board isn't paying enough attention to it, so leave it at that.
Okay.
Jerry?
Thank you to everyone who came out tonight. It's always encouraging to see so many people who live in Bridgton who are interested in the goings-on in Bridgton. So I would like to announce on Saturday, the Democratic caucus will be held here in this building from 2 to 4, Saturday, February 28th, and we will be discussing strategies for a successful campaign cycle, get to know each other, and just socialize with one another. I will be leading it. Thank you all. Call me if you have any questions. That's it.
Dan?
Don't have any food?
Oh, there's going to be so much food. There's going to be entertainment. You can't even believe how much fun it is. It's going to put the party in politics. Thank you. That was right off the top of my head. You're welcome. There'll be much more hilarity on Saturday.
Just a couple quick comments. Winter Carnival here in Bridgton was on February 14th. It was a huge turnout. We ran out of buttons to sell to people, so we had to improvise, and we came up with a plan But it was a very well-attended event. People had a great time. The sledding hill that we added was an enormous hit. There were kids on that thing all day long, as well as some adults. So I just wanted to comment on that. The other thing I wanted to comment on was Saturday night, this past Saturday, we held a fundraiser for the Robbins family that I talked about at the last meeting. The turnout for that was huge. Glenn may be able to attest, but I would say we probably put through 250 to 300 people.
That's great.
At a minimum. The amount of food that was donated to us was huge. We had chicken parm from Stella's, we had meatballs from Camp Skylamar that were homemade by the owner there. Amato's donated almost 40 pounds of pasta. The Kahn Family Bakery donated some breads. And then the amount of businesses and community members that donated items for the raffle item was huge. I had stuff come in from as far away as California that was mailed to me. Lady visits Bridgton. She knew the family somehow, and she mailed me all this like quilts and homemade jewelry. And I'm happy to say we raised $5,000 in that 3-hour period for the Robbins family. So I just want to thank the community for coming out. I mean, we had people coming up from Portland, Westbrook, you know, so it was just great to see the community pull behind a family like that, so.
It was a great turnout, but I don't know how you overlooked mentioning the apple crisp.
Oh, yes, it was the apple crisp. I forgot about that yet. That was made by Tammy Peralt. If you haven't had it, it is phenomenal. She did an apple and a cherry apple crisp. Yeah.
I heard. You enjoyed.
Nikki Nishinsky's 10 gallons of homemade tomato sauce.
I always
She had
forget
to
certain
stand on a
people.
stepladder to stir it.
Yeah, yeah. One of our firefighters' wives, who also owns Nikki's Delicious, when I brought up all the food and what we were doing in the spaghetti dinner, she said, "Well, what are you doing for the spaghetti sauce?" I said, "Well, I usually go to like Hannaford or I go to Sam's Club and they sell these big tubs and you just heat it up. It's like, you know, Prego or Prince or whatever it is. Oh, you can, I won't say the word, you can't use that stuff. I will make you some homemade pasta sauce." And she made 10 gallons of, and I can tell you, I don't think there was much left. There was, you know, we sent home a little bit to a couple different houses, like the Tucker house and the Harrison house, but there, it was good. So I'll know where I'll go for sauce, and that's all I have.
Thanks, Dan, for doing that. Yeah, Dan, that's amazing.
Absolutely.
Right.
I'm all set.
Carmen?
Hoping the town manager will let us know what happened to the roofs at the transfer station and I
Yep.
think something at the town garage.
Yes.
Other than that, I have nothing.
I have 2 items. One, there is another fundraiser tomorrow at the Magic Lantern for the Robbins family. A comedy group is coming, and the entire ticket proceeds will go to the Robbins family. Doors open at 6. The comedy starts at 7. Deb talked about the HOP people, Housing Opportunity Program people that were here. I was at that meeting. I don't see Ashley M. anymore, but I think if people look through their documents, there may be an interest in considering the differences of state-imposed zoning on areas that are both designated growth areas and are serviced by water and sewer versus areas that are serviced by water and sewer but are not in growth areas. And again, the comprehensive plan determines what is a growth area and which pieces of the town would be governed by the push in that area. That's it.
Town manager.
All right, whoops, where are we?
Awards.
Awards and other administrative recommendations. Think we have any? Town manager.
Thank you. Ashley M., Jane, Todd, Howard, Nikki, and I had a meeting with the GPCOG staff to review their Bridgton climate vulnerability assessment, which was started before I was here. There is grant funding available to pursue, for example, for us, high-risk flood culverts in infrastructure areas, which we'll prioritize in the future. And there's a date in either late June or early July to apply for some grants. Todd is going to be a major part of that. He's away right now, but he'll be back. As soon as he gets back next week, or maybe the following week, we are going to do something, or at least start something. I did visit the fire site at 18 Cross Street. A devastating fire, actually. Carmen, I was worried about next door.
I was too.
I'm sure you were. Chief, appreciate that. Dan, thank you. And I truly appreciate all the efforts from not only our dedicated Bridgton firefighters, but also the regional folks as well. They were all there. They worked hard. It's good to see that they all respond like we respond to help them. People don't understand that or appreciate it as much as they should, by the way. They're all so dedicated. Thank you, Carmen. I did have a site visit to the transfer station regarding a serious roof leak. We are seeking an estimate. I should have one tomorrow. We also are seeking an estimate for leaking at our Public Works facility that has been going on apparently for quite some time. I will have some numbers by the end of this week. The only thing I got that was positive was I think the Public Works building wasn't as bad as, well, the transfer station, but I don't know if that's good news.
It's all relative.
But it's all relative, right? So, I was invited and attended the Chamber of Commerce Board meeting and also a Community Center Board meeting. So I will leave that to all of your thoughts and things. Both very interesting meetings, and I did learn a lot and also shared some things. I did meet also with the American Legion members. They've had some issues. I won't go into it right now, but I listened to them and obviously had a good time at coffee with them. Dan, Winter Carnival was outstanding. And I have to thank you as well as everyone involved to what you did. That's just a great event.
Thank you.
And you made some great changes, and I'm sure you got a list of requests from a lot of other people for next year, and you'll handle those. Between all of that, we have been full-time budget working, and the board will be receiving their binder Thursday. We'll get it to you somehow or whatever. But it's been a challenge, and I will share that when we have our get-together March 4th and 5th. Other than that, sir, that's what I have.
Deputy Town Manager's report.
Nomination papers will be available in our office Monday, March 2nd, for the following positions: 2 Select Board members, Assessor, Overseer of the Poor, 3-year term; 1 Planning Board member, 3-year term; 1 Planning Board member alternate, 3-year term; 2 MSAD 61 Director, 3-year term; 1 Water District Trustee, 3-year term. You must be 18 years or older, a registered voter in our municipality, and obtain 25+ signatures to be placed on the ballot. Please contact Ashley in the clerk's office for more information. The Community Development Department has been working with the Community Development Advisory Committee on fiscal year 26-27 Community Development Block Grant applications. Applications are in the process of being scored, and funding recommendations will be decided tomorrow, February 25th, during the committee's regular meeting at 9 a.m. here at the Municipal Complex's meeting room. Recommendations will be submitted to the Select Board during a public hearing on March 10th at 5:30, at which time the board will either approve or modify funding recommendations to be sent to the county for final determination. The Community Development Block Grant is offered through the town of Bridgeton annually, with applications available in the fall. Community nonprofits are encouraged to reach out to the Community Development Department anytime throughout the year to discuss projects they would like to seek funding for and to receive technical assistance leading up to the grant application period. Please contact the Community Development Director, Ashley Millett, at 207-803-9956 or a millett@bridgetonmaine.org for more information. Bridgeton Recreation has been busy and exciting start to the 2026 for the Recreation Department. We have officially wrapped up our K-2 and 3rd/4th grade basketball seasons, and our 5th, 6th, and Lake Region Middle School club basketball programs will conclude in the coming month. It has been a fantastic winter season with strong participation and great energy in the gyms. During school vacation week, we hosted 2 open gyms every weekday, along with 3 pay-by-donation yoga classes in partnership with Yoga with Rose. The response was very positive, and we are hopeful to add yoga as a regular class offering in the coming weeks. Open gyms continue Monday through Friday as basketball practices decrease. We've also added new programming to the town hall calendar, including a Wednesday night Zumba class with Zumba with Vicky, and a new daytime preschool sports spectacular running March 11th through April 8th. Looking ahead, all spring sports programs are open for registration on our website, and summer camp and swim lesson registrations will go live this Friday. Planning is also underway for several upcoming events and programs, including the Foursquare World Championship on Saturday, May 9th, which will be held at Lake Region High School this year to allow us to expand the number of courts. We are also finalizing details for spring karate and archery sessions, as well as launching a high school age 3v3 basketball league. Lastly, Mother Nature has cooperated more than usual this season, allowing us to keep the public ice rink open longer than in past years. We're still going strong, while we may need to close early on Saturday due to forecasted temperatures in the upper 40s. The extended forecast looks promising, and we are hopeful the rink will remain open into at least the first week of March, fingers crossed. Public Works, at this time, the roads remain unposted but are expected to be posted February 28th through May 15th. When we do post them, we will advertise them through our public notices on the town site and on the town's Facebook page. Until next time, be safe and be well.
Thank you. All right, treasurer's warrants. Anybody?
Move to approve treasurer's warrant 68, 69, 70, 71, and 72.
Second. All in favor? 5-0. Dates for the next meeting. March 4th, 2026 at 8:30 a.m. right here. The first day of budget review. Public meeting, everyone is welcome to attend. March 5th, 2026 at 9 o'clock. Day 2 budget review meeting. Everyone is welcome to attend. March 10th is our next regular board meeting, followed by March 24th.
25th.
What's that?
25th. Mine says the 25th.
It should be the 24th. That's a typo.
Mine
Oh.
says 24.
Mine was 14. Yeah, 24th is the
I'm telling you, mine says 24.
I'm telling you, I had a typo.
I know. I'll go with what you said.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Meeting adjourned.